6 months ago, Cameron Smith told the world he had made his bed and was going to sleep in it. This week he told a journalist that the money driving professional golf has become far-fetched and needs to come back to the way it was. Those two statements cannot both be true at the same time, and the contradiction between them tells you everything about where Cameron Smith and the entire LIV golf experiment currently stand. Here's the full story. The beginning of this story is 2022, specifically the summer of 2022, because that is when the golf world started learning exactly who Cameron Smith is underneath the mullet and the easygoing Queensland demeanor. In July of that year, at Royal Liverpool, Smith delivered one of the great final rounds in Open Championship history to win the Claret Jug. He birdied 4 of the last 6 holes to catch Rory McIlroy, who had led all week, and finished at 20 under par for the lowest winning score in the history of the Open. He was 28 years old, a Masters runner-up, a Players champion, and now an Open champion. He was the best player in the world not named Scottie Scheffler, and the PGA Tour had every reason to believe he was about to become its next face. He caddied his new trophy onto a plane and flew to Australia. And then, 2 months after winning at Hoylake, he joined LIV Golf. The timing was the part that stung. Smith had won the Claret Jug, given a beautiful speech about what it meant to win a major, gone quiet, and then emerged on the other side of a private jet as a LIV player. The reports at the time suggested his deal was worth around $100 million. He said he was in a really good place in his career and his life and his family life and did not need to change anything. He said he was going to stay with LIV. He said specifically, "I have made my bed and I am going to sleep in it." That was January 2026, when the PGA Tour offered him a spot in the returning member program, alongside Koepka, Rahm and DeChambeau. He turned it down. The deadline passed on February 1st. The door closed. 8 weeks later, the Public Investment Fund announced it was pulling its money from LIV Golf at the end of 2026. The league that Smith had chosen over the Open Championship, over the Ryder Cup, over the tour on which he had built his career, was suddenly fighting for its survival. Quick pause. If you think Cameron Smith deserves his path back to the PGA Tour on reasonable terms, type "let him back" in the comments. If you think he turned down the chance and now has to deal with the consequences, type "made his bed." I read every single one. The statement that lit the golf world up came in an interview with Golf Digest, published this week. Smith was asked about the prize money landscape in professional golf, and his answer was candid in a way that cut directly against the narrative he has been selling for 4 years. He said this had been an awesome 4 or 5 years for golfers everywhere, and had changed a lot of things, but that realistically it was time for everything to come back to the way it was. He said it was obviously not working, and was pretty far-fetched. He ended with, "We will see what happens." Read those words carefully. A player who joined LIV specifically because of the money, is now describing that same money as far-fetched and unsustainable. A player who said he was going to sleep in the bed he had made, is now publicly questioning whether that bed was built correctly. This is not a criticism from outside the system. This is an admission from within it, from one of the marquee signings that justified LIV's entire existence, that the financial structure he participated in building cannot survive. That is the call-out that the headline refers to. Not a press conference confrontation, not an angry social media post. Something quieter and more revealing. A major champion publicly conceding, in the pages of the sport's most prominent magazine, that the prize money revolution he helped drive was never sustainable in the first place. Brian Rowlap, the PGA Tour's new CEO, made his own position equally clear weeks earlier. He said the returning member program was a particular program for a specific time, and it has gone away. He said the tour will react when they have to react, depending on circumstances. He called it business as usual, until the dust settles. So here is the position Cameron Smith occupies right now. He is contracted to LIV through the end of 2026, a league whose future beyond this season is genuinely in question. He turned down the one structured pathway back to the PGA Tour that existed. He has now publicly said the financial model underpinning his choice was not realistic, and the CEO of the organization he needs to welcome him back has made clear that no equivalent program currently exists. The bed he said he was going to sleep in is looking considerably less comfortable than it did in January. His history with the PGA Tour is worth understanding in full, because it is the context that makes his current position so complicated. Smith was not always the villain of this story on the tour side. He was a beloved figure, an Australian everyman with an unconventional haircut and an infectious personality who played fast and hit it close and birdied everything in sight. His 2022 Players' Championship win was a masterclass, closing in 66 to win the tournament they call the fifth major. At that stage, Smith was everything the tour wanted to build around. He was a personality, a legitimate champion, and a player who drew casual fans into the sport because watching him was simply fun. When he joined LIV, that warmth curdled in the traditional media. The Ryder Cup door closed immediately, ruling him out of the European team he had been expected to anchor for years. The world ranking points dried up, which would have been catastrophic for a player whose ranking is tied to major championship access. He was able to qualify for majors on merit through his past champion status, but the competitive context of his results on LIV, without ranking points and against reduced fields, became increasingly difficult to calibrate against the rest of the world. His LIV record has also been, measured against the expectations that surrounded his signing, modest. 4 years on the circuit, and no LIV title is a notable gap for a player who won the Open and the Players in the same calendar year. Whether the format, the fields, or simply the loss of the competitive fire that burning PGA Tour ambition once provided accounts for that gap, is a matter of interpretation. What is harder to dispute is that the Cameron Smith who lit up Hoylake in 2022 has not produced equivalent performances anywhere since. The version of himself that walked down the 18th at Royal Liverpool with tears in his eyes, arms spread, claret jug waiting, has not been clearly visible in professional competition in 4 years. That is a significant thing to consider when evaluating what the guaranteed money actually bought. Now, with the money he described as far-fetched running out at the end of this season, Smith faces a decision tree with no clean branches. Wait out the year, and then apply for tour reinstatement as a past champion, serving a 1-year ban from his last LIV event before being eligible, try to win his way back through the DP World Tour, hope the PGA Tour creates a new pathway that did not exist when the previous one closed. None of those options are as clean as the one that sat in his inbox in January with a February 1st deadline. The call-out is ultimately a self-call-out. Smith is not attacking Rolap or the PGA Tour directly. He is publicly acknowledging that the financial logic he bought into was flawed, while the institution he needs to return to watches, waits, and handles its own business. The claret jug winner, who chose the guaranteed money, is now describing that money as something that needed to come back to earth. And the organization he called out by walking away in 2022 is in no particular hurry to make his path back easy. He made the bed. Now he has to figure out where he actually sleeps. If this laid out the full picture for you, drop a like before you scroll away. It is the single biggest thing that tells the algorithm to push these stories forward. And subscribe if you want more of these, the kind that connect the dots the news cycle misses. There are more coming. The broader point his prize money comment makes is one that the entire golf world is slowly arriving at. The Saudi money created an arms race that the sport cannot sustain without Saudi money. Prize funds inflated, appearance fees inflated, the baseline expectation of what a professional golfer could earn for competing in a given week inflated. And when the inflation driver exits, the structure built around it deflates. Smith saying it needs to come back to the way it was is not a critique of the PGA Tour. It is an acknowledgement that the economics of the LIV era were always dependent on a patron who would not commit indefinitely. Every player who joined LIV, every player who stayed on the tour, and every golf fan who watched the war unfold was operating inside a financial environment that one country's sovereign wealth fund was sustaining by choice and could end by choice. PIF made that choice. And Smith, to his credit and somewhat to his detriment given the context, said it plainly, rather than pretending the numbers still made sense. That honesty makes the call-out real, even if the target is not the PGA Tour CEO, but the model Smith himself participated in building. He made the bed. Now he has to figure out where he actually sleeps. If this laid out the full picture for you, drop a like before you scroll away. It is the single biggest thing that tells the algorithm to push these stories forward. And subscribe if you want more of these, the kind that connect the dots the news cycle misses. There are more coming.